Hi, I'm Steadman and I'll be co-directing Precious Emily. It's an amazing theatre production that's run by Stanscaff. And we also have today...
Hello, I'm Aaron and I will also be playing Precious in this amazing production of Precious Emily. And then today we have a really special guest. We have...
Precious McKenzie.
So I think, well, it's only fitting to start at the beginning.
Right.
So could you tell us a little bit about what growing up in South Africa was like?
Well, it was hell to us. Sign that read, whites only. And that was very humiliating to us.
Right. So how did you find, when did you first realize that there was this thing called apartheid?
Well, it was the first time because, as I said, the benches everywhere, it was written there, whites only. And that's how it all started to me.
how did you feel when Nelson Mandela was being imprisoned, and then how did you feel after his emancipation?
Oh, it was very disappointing because it was so disappointing that I decided immediately when I heard that Mandela was in jail, I thought, well, this is the only time to leave South Africa.
So you left at the time that Nelson...
When Mandela was put in prison, that's the time I made up my mind that I'm taking my family out.
Right. And then when he was released, how did that feel?
Well, when he was released, well, I was in New Zealand, and I wasn't there for the opening and just on television.
And how did you feel watching it on the television?
We were very proud, put it this way. We were extremely glad because we never thought this can ever happen, that Mandela will be released. It was a joy.
Tell us a little bit more about, your childhood, like your growing up in South Africa with your family.
My sister and I, is that we were given to foster parents. Right. And we were under the welfare society. Right. And that's how we came to be fostered to people. Right. And those days, they were more after the money rather than looking after children.
How long was you in foster care for?
For foster parents, it was a long time because from one foster parents to the next, we were maybe a year there or 6 months. And that interfered with our education too in school because you got to change school every time, every 6 months or six weeks.
So then there's this famous story of you walking for miles with, for the water.
Water in your head, yes. Now that was also very humiliating because as a child, how could you actually pick that metal with sort of a container and put it on your head? And I was only about 7 years old then. And Gloria, my sister, was even younger. And by the water place, people could see that we couldn't handle it. They used to put the container on our head so we can get away with it. But when we got to the premises, to home, what we call home now, and we got thrashing for it because we brought very little water home.
Wow. Yeah. So for me as the actor that's going to be playing you, Precious, for those journeys, was it kind of a feeling of this was never going to end? Was there a feeling of like despair of like how would you describe that emotion as you was going on the journey?
Well, at that time, we never knew that we were going to be treated this way. We thought when the Welfare Society took us to the place where we were going to be, the foster children, and the welfare at the end of it were told that we were, ill-treated, put it that way. And then the only way they could help us get away from this woman is by getting us to the Sunday school. Right. So Sunday school means that the parents of the other children could see what was happening. Right. And they report back to the parents. And that's how it went to the Welfare Society. And that's where it started, where we could move away from this devil of a woman.
So you got away from the devil. And then when did Mum come back into your life?
No, our mother never come back to life because she was in a drinking spree at that time, and she was always out herself while we were with foster parents.
So when did you meet her again?
Oh, it's very hard to say when we met her, but it took a long time before we met her again, because my mother did like alcohol.
So, okay, so let's talk about weightlifting. How did you find weightlifting?
Now, weightlifting, I became a different person when I saw them lifting weights. And then I thought to myself, because I'm doing gymnastics was my sport. Right. So then I thought to myself, you know what? I could do the tricks they're doing. And I started with the gymnastics. Now, I was doing a lot of good tricks, like standing on your hands, walk on my hands. And then when we moved to the welfare society, where they sent us to, was a home where we thought this is going to be the best place for us. And we wasn't to stay there again. We were moved again from there to another foster parents.
And how were these foster parents?
Now, the first foster parent that we had, they were nice to us. But when they discovered that I'm dark-skinned than my sister, that's where the problem started, because they didn't want to keep us anymore. And that was very cruel, because how could I separate my sister and myself? And because we looked nearly twins as well.
So, going back to weightlifting, what was it that made you fall in love with it?
Truth is that when I left school, because the priest was teaching me gymnastics, the priest. But so when I left school, Gloria, my sister, couldn't leave school at the same time as me, because she was younger. And I was older, so I had to go to school instead of foster parents.
When did you know that you loved it?
Oh, right. So when I stayed with another parent and going to school now, that's when I thought to myself, let me see if I can do some weight training. So a fellow called Kevin Stent. Now, Kevin Stent was the one that taught me weightlifting. It all happened this way. I stopped with a guy one day in the pavement. Do you know where I can do my gymnastics? Because that was my sport.
So you just stopped somebody?
Or stopped somebody in the road and said, do you know where I can? And this is my hometown, of course. Right. And he directed me. In Church Street, up top of Church Street, there's a gym there. Now, well, I thought, good gymnastics, that's what I want. But when I got there, they were just a parallel bar. That's about all. And then they had Kevin Stent teaching weightlifting. When that happened, I think that's where the ball started to roll. And he said to me, the best thing to do for you to come and join us. Weightlifting will be very good for gymnastics. I fell for a joke. I thought, all right, that's very good to me.
Oh, wow.
So then I started training there and still did my gymnastics. Then he started praising me. He said, you know what, you're doing very well. When he said that, I thought, wow, this is a sport for me. And he even went this far. He said, you know what, because you're so good in the beginnings, I will try to contact somebody in America, and he might help you to leave South Africa. That's Kevin Stent. And he's European, he's white.
So it was Kevin that thought that you could be a champion?
Precisely. He was the one that started me with weightlifting. I even tell that throughout my book, everywhere, that's the man, and through him that I became so good friends that I helped him to emigrate to New Zealand.
Was there ever a time on the flip side of that, because obviously weightlifting has done so many amazing things for you in your career, was there ever a time where you missed doing gymnastics? Was there ever a time where you ever thought about going back to doing gymnastics?
No, I didn't miss it, because all I was looking for somebody who can teach me more about gymnastics. Because what I've done, it's a novel. And someone to do so successful, like handspring, walking my hands, and that could earn us bread as well. Because when we were hungry, I used to sing, and my sister used to sing. Poor little Johnny, his mother is dead. You heard about that one? That's right. Until I came across that, and I was walking my hands, and people used to give us bread.
Bread?
But yeah, walking my hands, but got earn some bread to eat. because we're practically street kids almost. Yeah. And today you call it street kids. Yeah.
So, what was the relationship between you and Chris?
Chris de Broglie. Yeah. Now, Chris de Broglie, he was a Frenchman, and he was working in Johannesburg for the French airlines. So good position, good job. And that's where he ended up. And guess what? Because he knew that I won't get any further than what I'm doing, he took things on his own hands. He contacted his boss at the airlines. Could he have a fare for Precious McKenzie in Johannesburg? Because we want him to do his weightlifting so everyone can see that what he's capable of doing. And that's how he started me. And it was my first aeroplane flight in my life. Never been in an aeroplane.
So where was this? This was coming to England?
No, this was in South Africa still.
And then where was you travel? Oh, you're traveling in South Africa?
Yes, to travel in South Africa. Because from Johannesburg to, is it from Durban to Johannesburg? Right. But anyway, it was a long trip. Yes, it was from Johannesburg to Durban, I think. Yes, it is Durban.
Did you ever get used to flying on a plane? Was there ever a point where this is normal now?
No, at that time, I was just excited being in an aeroplane, you know. And then when we got to Johannesburg, what you call was waiting for me at the Precious McKenzie show, the hall. It's Mahatma Gandhi Hall, it was.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
So, speaking about the Precious McKenzie show, what was that like? So you've gone from actually doing gymnastics to somebody recognizing you, Kevin recognizing you.
That's right.
And then now we're getting to a place where you wasn't able to lift in South Africa.
That's right.
Then it becomes the Precious McKenzie show.
That's
so
it.
Now you're starting to get fame. I mean, what is that like?
Now it's good to be on that point. Now, when I performed there, they said to me, "Look, Precious, we want you to, what you learned now from Kevin Stent, do your press and clean and jerk, because we call this your show, Precious McKenzie show." So I was excited about it. I feel like a king now, and because he already flew me to Johannesburg by plane. And then after that, when the show was on, Chris de Broglie and Dennis Brutus had to escape now because they discover that the branch, special branch, is looking for them.
Why are they looking for them?
Because politics. Yeah. Because you can see that this is dangerous to them, that the world will know here is a man who's capable of lifting so much weight. And that was, the system didn't allow that. And of course, they were now hunting for the organizer who organized it. Like we're sitting here like this now today, that could never happen. You, I, and her would have been arrested straight away. See, so Dennis and Brutus and discovered that they've been traced. Straight away the word came along. And guess what they did? They had to run underground. Straight away after the show, he took me to his home. And he had to run away from there, from his own home in Johannesburg. Escape because he heard that the special branch is after them.
How did that make you feel, knowing that?
Oh, well, I was panicking myself because, I mean, this is the start for me to go overseas one day. You know, go live for my birth country. But this is happening.
So, you wanting to live for your country.
That's right.
And then them turning around to you and saying that if you do live for the country, then you'll have to fly on a separate plane, you'll have to wear different clothes. Talk to me a little bit about that.
And I'll tell you a little bit about that. That's another long story. But anyway.
Yeah.
But when that happened, we now discovered that Dennis Brutus and de Broglie, they're seeking them, looking for them. The security branch, you know what that means. They're the baddies, the real baddies. They lock you up with no charge, nothing at all. and you'll never be seen. So, of course, they took a big gamble to run the Precious McKenzie show. After the show, he put me to his home to go sleep there, you know, in the children's bedroom. I stayed there. But they had to escape. Yeah, they had to leave. Because the following day, they gave Dennis Brutus, I think, 24 hours to leave South Africa. And no more than that. So remember, he had to sell his house. His children going to school, they started going to school. All that is affected.
So where was you at this point? So they said to him 24 hours. What did they say to you?
They know me because they could see in the books I'm got nothing to do with politics. Right. Yeah. And I'm not educated even to know about politics. Right. Yeah. So they left me alone. I'm just a tool, according to them.
So we're at, they're not letting you lift for South Africa.
You may continue from there. Yes, please. Now, when Dennis Brutus and Christopher was hunted for, and the Broglio was told he must get out of the country, gave him 24 hours. In other words, that evening and the following day, he's going to be out. Now, how could you leave your family? But he was working for, as I said, the French Airlines. So his boss, what they call, gave him fare to get out of South Africa.
So, Precious, tell me, what was the transition like going from South Africa? Like 1 minute you're in South Africa, the next minute you're in the YMCA. Tell us what that was like.
That's another story, okay. Now, I left South Africa with my children.
Wait, let's go back. Why did you leave South Africa?
Left South Africa because when I heard Verwoerd, the Prime Minister, said, as long as the national government is in power in South Africa, no black man will have a passport and leave the country.
Right. Wow.
Now, when he said that, I thought to myself, leave. You leave now if you can. And that's how it all started.
So what was the transition? What was it like? I mean, you're in this strange country. What's the difference between South Africa and England right at that point?
There's a big difference. Stayed in the YMCA was the only accommodation I could get in England. Yeah. Right. There was no room for me to look for accommodation for my family, because they already got the ship ticket for my two daughters.
So you came on a ship?
Yes. Although you couldn't go by airplane. So too expensive.
So what was that like? Being on the ship, how long was the ship?
14 days.
14 days?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
You couldn't have, if you were a working person, you couldn't afford to go to South Africa, from South Africa to England and back. You couldn't afford it. So the ship is the only thing. I came here by ship as well.
So did you get seasick?
No.
So you was good?
No, I was good at that. Some of them did get seasick, yeah.
Okay, I'm going off this now. Okay, so back to YMCA.
YMCA.
Yeah.
Because the YMCA accommodation was the only place. And I went and booked myself in there. And they gave me 3 or 4 days to live there. Yeah. Now I had to go and find accommodation. So those 2 Pakistanis, I went and approached them. I said, I'm looking for a house for my family because they're still in South Africa. And they said, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. Come see us again. This was in the payment. We'll see us tomorrow. So the following day, I saw them, and they said, yes, we've got 1 room for you. I was happy, very happy. It's just a room, doesn't matter. And then that's for that week. So I have to go and pick up my family now from Southampton. No, Southampton to London. Right. And I was waiting for them in London, near Trafalgar Square. Picked them up. And in the bus, in the coach, took the coach with my family, 2 daughters and myself and my wife. So we got to Northampton. The accommodation was there, just 1 room, 1 bedroom now. And it was a Jamaican woman and a husband. Right? There was hardly any Jamaicans at that time there. They were the only Jamaicans in the street that we saw. And the Pakistanis, bus drivers, and the highly educated too, but because of being black and colored, they couldn't get the job. They were overqualified. See, now they there to help me, and it's the only way for them to offer me this room. So when I got there, it was one bed and one room. I can't just say, no, thank you. I got no place to go.
Gotta take it.
Gotta take it.
Yeah.
So I took it. And the Pakistanis kept me to the days that I was going to be free. And then I got this Jamaican woman, also on the road, asked her for accommodation. Just take a chance. Oh, yes, I got a room for you. One room. Wow. And it's 3 of us, one room. So he accepted that, paid for it, and my wages are £11 a week.
So we're not talked about this
now
yet.
they're charging me £9 a week. Now £11, that's very little money. So you can't respond to that. But so I had to say to the woman, I can't afford that. Okay, you can't afford that. Tomorrow you're going to be out. My children had to go and wash their face, and Liz, my wife, the tap outside, and icicles, you could see the ice.
Oh my God.
Icicles.
So this is in the
Yes,
70s.
that's right.
That's the
Very
real
cold.
the
Very
real
cold.
winter.
And my wife and I didn't know what to do. It's the only thing. But by the way, we looked back to the Pakistanis. Now, this room they would give us, there was a pianola in the room that was taking up the space, and one bed for the 3 of us. So it was heaven to us because we got at least a roof. And guess where we are? Next door to the Catholic church. Man, it was like a blessing. So Christmas Eve, we had to take the bottle to the door for the milkman the following morning to come pick it up and put the bottle of milk, and which we had to pay, I think like threepence or something. They take the money and gave us a bottle of milk. And I can remember when we got outside, Christmas Eve now, no, Boxing Day. It was snowing. When we opened the door, the snow brightened up the whole place. It was magnificent.
This is the first time you've seen snow?
We've seen snow in our life. Because no snow in South Africa.
Yeah, so what did you think the first time you
Oh,
saw snow?
it's heaven. Yeah, all this ice falling on us, it's heaven. Yeah.
So,
And there's a church, a cathedral next door to us as well. And we Catholics too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All things are now happening, see, slowly.
Yeah.
When I saw this brightness of the night lit up with snow, I was excited. And I went to go get the kids, brought them out, come and see the snow. And guess what? They would pick up the snow and start throwing it.
Was there anything else like that in England that there just wasn't in South Africa?
No, nothing.
Just snow.
Snow, man, I'll tell you. No.
How was the difference between the white people that was in South Africa to the white people that was in England?
Well, the white people, they're white. Why would they fight for us? They weren't interested in us. They having the benefit and South Africa even pays a white man to come to live in South Africa. Right. Because the whites are outnumbered. See what I mean?
So they was paying people to go over there.
Well, that's what they want. They even had plane loads of what do you call this place now? Not far from here, Liverpool. Yeah, now Liverpool, as you must know, it was fairly slum at the time. Now the European was very good for South Africa to get whites into South Africa. And they weren't skilled, but they brought them in. You see what I mean? And that's where the system was so bad that if you're black, you were just nobody.
So it's 1966.
Yes.
You're just about to get on the plane. You're sitting down, the plane's just about to take off. What are you feeling?
Well, I felt like a king. The reasons for, here I'm with white and black sportsmen. That, nothing was better than that in the world to me. So, of course, I was always pleasant with everyone. I made friends straight away in the plane. Yes. And when we got to Jamaica, couldn't believe it. Boy. Look, black man owns this blooming place.
And then you, well, first of all, let's go back to that. So the only reference that I had for weightlifting growing up for me was Jeff Capes.
Jeff Capes?
Yeah. So he was like, every time he was in school and you did something strong, he was like, yeah, Jeff Capes. Like anything to do with power would be him. That would be our reference.
I had him on my shoulder. Also, yeah, I had him on my shoulder. And he weighed 20 stone.
Jeff Capes was the biggest man that I've probably ever seen. I think it was Giant Haystacks and Jeff Capes in my day was the biggest people. You had him on your shoulders.
Two of us went to see all the old people in New Zealand. With the Commonwealth Games.
And then Jeff was living over here, but then went to New Zealand.
With me, two of us went.
Amazing.
To the old age people.
Yeah.
And to go and meet them, shake hands with them. See, Jeff Capes, Precious McKenzie. And they all smile, you know. Two of us did that. And that's where somebody asked, could you lift Jeff Capes? Somebody asked me, could you lift Jeff Capes? I said, yes.
Of course. I can.
I said to Jeff, open your legs. He opened his legs. I went right under him. Remember, he was heavy. I picked them up. They went straight up, lifting them up. And his eyes went big. And he said, put me down. I said, one more. I said, one more. I held him there. And you could see his eyes. He was popping out.
But let me ask you a question. Who was more scared, Muhammad Ali or Jeff Capes?
No, Jeff Capes.
Jeff Capes was more scared.
Yeah. To be more scared, because he used to be away from him.
Yeah. Not used to people being able to lift him on machine.
That's right.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. No, that's good you brought that up, because he's the first one I lifted. Right. No, sorry, it was the second one. Because the first one I lifted was in Tottenham Court Road, the Sportsman Club. Yeah. That's when I lifted Muhammad Ali.
So was Muhammad Ali the first one?
And the Sportsman Club it's like a casino place.
Right.
So only the rich goes there.
Yeah.
So they had me there as a guest speaker and him.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah. The right corner of Tottenham Court Road and Oxford Street. Oxford Street. That's right. Now that was right in the corner, the Sportsman Club. I think it's still there. Well, my mind setting was, because I'm Catholic, see, big son of a cross, see, yep. And my family, all Catholics, made them Catholics, and my children, but no longer. Once they left home,
change. That's children.
Yeah, change is gone. What's that? Go to shit. What's that? I don't know what's that.
Oh, okay, so it was a very spiritual thing that kind of helped you stay focused in the mindset. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. So, then when you're in Jamaica, you win your first gold medal. What did that feel like?
That was heaven, absolutely heaven. Now, don't forget who was there: the Queen, Princess Anne, Prince Philip. Three of them. And let me tell you, when the closing ceremony was closed, they had a party, and the hall wouldn't have been only but twice the size of this room. Yeah, that's a hall in Jamaica. It was a small place. Yeah, so I was dressed up nicely, and I heard the music, calypso music. I left my room. I went straight to the music because I like music. When I got there, I see everybody's standing doing nothing. I thought to myself, look at there, that's Princess Anne. Princess Anne there. You know, I can hardly see her because I'm short. I thought to myself, I'm going to get myself in there. So I walked push everyone, go between the legs, go until I got to the center, where where she's standing. I said, and the music is playing, and I went up to Princess Anne. I said, Princess Anne, could we have a dance? She looked down at me. She said, sure. And we're doing the twist. We did a twist, and I'll tell you, and the sportsmen all stood still. Nobody was, no action, because I'm doing it. And then the Queen and Prince Philip up in a balcony, sort of balcony, and they were sitting there, and the security person behind them. So I'm dancing, and the security decided, no, we're going to break us up, because anything can happen. Yeah. So they came down the stairs, straight up while I'm dancing, and it took Princess Anne away. They spoiled my heaven.
Yeah, wow.
That's right. So I was doing a twist with that. And that's how she came to know me from there onwards. And my very first time in Buckingham Palace was after the Olympic Games in Mexico, 68. That's the top that I got here now. I still got the same top. It's brought with me now.
Have you got it? Can we get that top so just we can put it on camera?
That's it. Yeah, for England, there were. So you got the right. Everybody.
Why does it look like it's fresh?
I know, I was thinking this.
Like this.
Prized.
It's very good. Now that's the rose. And no one's got that. And remember, it still fits me.
It still fits you now.
Yeah. 56 kilos I am.
This is amazing. Wow. Amazing.
You like that?
Yeah.
Everybody saw that. I did a presentation now, this afternoon. But no, I had to take it off. Because the New Zealanders wouldn't like that. Oh. So I had to take it off, yeah.
And it's 1970, that's my birth year.
Birth year.
Yeah, that's the year I was born.
Look at that.
Yeah.
This is supposed to happen. So, you know when you was in Jamaica, was there a South African team there?
No.
Where's the place that you've been when the South African team was
No,
there?
sorry. Put it this way. I think they did go.
Right.
There was somebody, I don't know who, but not in weightlifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, have you ever faced anybody from South Africa once you've left in weightlifting?
No white South African was there anymore because of boycotts around the world.
So yes, because
because
the boycott happened.
Yes. Boycott. No white men came from South Africa.
So how does it feel winning?
Business, yes,
Yeah.
but not a sport.
How did you feel knowing that, showing South Africa the champion that you was?
You mean in South Africa?
No, once you've left.
When I left.
Yeah, so you've left South Africa and then I get to be a champion.
Yeah. I was very proud of myself because there's my family now. Pardon me, my kids having an education in England, which I didn't have.
Right.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was proud of myself that way. Do you know, even today, my kid says, Dad, it's through you that we are here today. No matter what we do, you did the opening for us.
Amazing.
And that was the hardest time at all. Now let's get back to the train. I'd like you to hear this one. Okay. When I got to South, I'm leaving South Africa. The press was there outside the ship because I was asked by them, the press, are you going to go back to South Africa? I said no. It's one of the worst things I've done to say no.
Why?
I'm not going to go back to South Africa because then my kids are there and my wife is still there because I've got a passport for my wife if she wants to work in England.
Okay.
The Home Office, because Liz, my wife, was a machinist.
Okay.
On shirts, on the collar of the shirt, she used to do that. And Crocodile Jones was desperate for workers in the stitching side. And she was qualified. And I was qualified because I was in the shoe trade. I used to cut soles and insoles of shoes. Can you see that?
Was this in Northampton?
Northampton.
Right.
Right. Because Northampton. Now, in actual fact, I didn't meet him by the ship. I met him in Trafalgar Square. That's the place, the people who does the work for you. At that time, you had people there to look after people who want to go somewhere and directed them or helped them out.
To go where they need to go.
Right.
Okay.
So they're the one that helped me and said, well, and we also got the authority from Crocodile and Jones, the shoe factory. See, things are getting better for me now. Right. So the shoe factory, he was the boss. He signed my wife on to get a working permit here in London. Right. Because South Africa wouldn't accept my wife to have a passport if we're not citizens of England. But if I have a permission from the Home Office to work in England, the South African government can't do bugger all. That's the way.
So let me get this straight. Now you're in England, your wife's in England,
Yes.
children are here, you're working,
That's right.
and you're weightlifting.
And
training.
weightlifting. Now weightlifting, I'm now starting to break the national records.
But where are you getting the time to do all this?
In my work, after work, go training. The poor wife goes to the kindergartens, go pick up the children, take them home, finish train, come home. But now remember, when I start winning medals, that's where the problem starts because I got no money. Nobody's giving me any money. So, and my wage is only £11 a week.
Because obviously nowadays there's sponsorships, there's all these things, but at that time,
Yeah,
you're a gold medalist coming back to work in the shoe factory,
that's right.
and there's no money.
No money.
So what happens next?
Now, I can take a shortcut now. Let's go. Now, we are now living in a one-bedroom, what do you call a bed sitter? Bed sit, yeah. That's what they call it in England at the time, bed sit. Yeah. And then you got no bathroom, but you got the water tap that you put the 20p in the slot, a meter, and then the what do you call it? It boils, yeah. Now, you got to have money for that, to bath the children in a bath, with the bath is. And then you got to put the money on the machine to supply your hot water. But when we stayed with a Jamaican woman, because she wanted money, she didn't accept me to have the children sleeping in the one bedroom. I must pay the extra money for the other bedroom. And I can't afford that. Guess what? She locked us out. Tomorrow you're going to find another place. And we had to. And that's where I found the Pakistanis. Stopped them in the road, asked them, have you got any accommodation for us?
So tell me about Bristol. How do we get from, where are we at this point? What city?
Now, Bristol, how come to Bristol? It's another story. Now, my company, Crocodile and Jones, because I was skilled cutting insoles. But they were getting broke now because the Italian shoes are coming into Britain.
Right.
Now, when that happens, either going to put us off or short time. Short time means you only work for 2 days, that's it.
Same part-time, like.
So that's where I applied for my wife and myself. No, I already got because I got my passport. But she's got a passport in South Africa. But they wouldn't let her go unless they see papers from England that the Home Office must give her a paper. That's right. And that's where Dennis Howell helped me. You know, Dennis Howell was the Minister of Sport here in England, here in Birmingham.
Yeah, I seen him on.
He became a good friend. Did you know that? He looked after us tremendously. He speeded up my passport.
This is your life, I seen him.
Yeah, that's right. He speeded up my application of the passport. He speeded up because I could never represent Britain without a passport.
So we're in Bristol now, and then what is the transition from Bristol now to leave England to go to New Zealand?
Now, what made me go to New Zealand? What made me go to New Zealand is that the moment I appeared on the newspapers, the Kiwis just loved me. Or pick up the phone, ringing me. Or, you know, when you come and visit us here, come and stay in New Zealand, everyone was doing it. And I thought to myself, my mother always said, go wherever you wanted. Where you're not, stay away. I thought, there we are. And that was my break. The moment I got to New Zealand.
You knew that was home.
That's right. I applied for a New Zealand passport. But I got dual citizenship. In other words, I can represent New Zealand or England.
Nice.
Wow.
And not many at the time could do that.
So, if you was to do it all again from the beginning, what would you change?
Put it this way, I wouldn't have loved to be in that position again. That's a very good answer, that one. To me, this was heaven. Right. This was heaven. Because there's no other place that gave me an opportunity like I got now. Now you can see how much I love England. Because no other country would have given it to me. I was told to apply for citizenship in Australia. Australia was not accepting any colored people at the time too.
Right.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
The doors wasn't open for us. Only England could have opened their arms for me.
Amazing.
See, now that is hitting something to your head now. No other country. That's why I got great respect for England. Because if England didn't allow me to come to here, I wouldn't be here today.
And so I have another question, kind of a little bit away from that, but in the sense of what do you think of your own personal qualities made you such a good weightlifter? So what do you think it was about you?
Now, the reason why it was about me, because the suffering that I had is the one that I said to myself, my children, I'm going to bring them up, educate them, because I never had that education. Let me give it to them. And that was the biggest break in my life. England.
So that kind of your upbringing and the struggles that you had to go through kind of made you more determined to
More
make
determined,
sure that
that's
your
right.
life was good.
More determined. Determination was the key in forcing you to do something. Yeah. You've got to be inspired by something to do something. You see what I mean? You can't just tell somebody, I'm going to do weightlifting. How the hell are you going to do weightlifting if you can't tell me what it's all about to inspire me and to make you think up there and don't think up down there.
So would you say that's a mix of the inspiration and plus your spirituality, because you're a very strong Catholic person?
That's another thing that helps. See, because I believe in prayers. You pray, no matter what God you believe into now, the world is like that now. No matter what religion they're praying for God.
So what type of sacrifices did you overcome to become a world champion?
Now, to overcome the pressure that I had was to qualify, and I was the first sportsman in England to qualify for all event, Olympics or world, or first man.
The first man ever.
In England when I was here, I was always qualifying first man. And when we go to get our uniforms, I was the first one go and get my uniform here in London. That's how much England did love me.
In terms of representation of black people, how do you feel the differences in the sport now from when you was doing it?
Oh, now it's heaven for a black man now today, because the gates are open for everyone. But you have to prove it. That's the only thing. To qualify. That's why I say I was the first one to qualify. Sorry to repeat that. I must tell you why I'm repeating it. You know the Savoy Hotel in London? Yeah. Every year I've been nominated for Sportsman of the Year, but I cannot win it because minority sport. You got it? Right. Minority sport means you're not getting the help outside, the public. the weightlifting is always the lowest. And that is why I could never qualify for Fourth of the Year. And at the Savoy Hotel, you come together there, the selections, and that's where I should qualify. And lots of people wouldn't be able to tell you that one. Yeah. And I was very proud. And I also appear with Princess Anne because remember, every year we go there with selection.
And then she remembers you from the dance.
Yes. She remembers the dance.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's right. Buckingham Palace, I met her again the second time when the British contingent had just come back from the Olympic Games, because I was being always in the team. Princess Anne was in Buckingham Palace, and as I walked in, all the colleagues just grabbed Princess Anne and the Queen, and you pass. When I came there, Princess Anne held my hand for a long time. And we were talking. Guess what? They had to take me away from her. Why? To some other people to have a break. That's the second time. The third time was when she was asked to come to New Zealand for the opening of the businessmen's club, which give money to the athletes for us to travel to the Olympics and all that. So Princess Anne made a special trip to New Zealand for that. And when Princess Anne got to the hall where the managers of the companies were put to every table to sit with their partners, wife or partner. Now my wife and myself were together, and by our table, two or three directors, two directors with their wives, and me and Liz with my wife. So it's our table. Now these tables were all spread because they're going to give money for the athletes. See what I mean? And guess what? Well, the Prime Minister was there as well. Our Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister walked in with Princess Anne, and I'm standing right near the corridor as they pass. My wife too. But the people who's passing us, we're standing as well. They were tall, and they're businessmen, tall. And of course, Princess Anne must have seen me between. Seen me between, and guess what? They walked past, got to the main table on the stage, and the functions carried on. Now, every time when we go for a toast, stand up, Princess Anne stands up too, and she looked towards my table. And I thought to myself, can't be. All right. The party went on and on. By the time when it come to the end, the Prime Minister, the lights of the televisions got switched off. It's finished. So the Prime Minister comes down with Princess Anne and the businessman. When it came past my table, Princess Anne stopped, broke the walk. She walked away from them. Came straight to my table. Liz and I, we small. She came straight to us, shook my hand in front of all of them. The Prime Minister too. Stood there and smiled with me. Shook my hand. And she says, how do you like New Zealand? I said, I love it. And that's why I'm here. Oh, she cracked up laughing at that. And the Prime Minister looked at me and winked eye. In other words, you're the luckiest bugger.
Even the Prime Minister was just
So I thought I could should tell you that one. Even the newspapers have got that story. Yeah. Accomplishment definitely would be meeting the Queen and going to Buckingham Palace 3 times to Buckingham Palace. And also the Queen came to, when I won my 4th consecutive gold medal in Edmonton, Prince Philip, they came to the venue, me lifting. So it was announced that Precious will be the first man in history in the Commonwealth Games to win 4 consecutive gold medals. And the Queen is listening to that. If he does that, he will be the first man to win 4 consecutive gold medals. And then I took my second lift, I think, second lift. They fouled me, knee touch. You don't know about that, eh?
What is knee touch?
If you clean and jerk, you can't touch your elbows, knees. There and you squat, get into a foot squat.
With this touch there.
Now elbows, if your elbows touch your knee, see, hit the knee like that.
Right.
That's a failure.
Right.
So of course, I'm a bit tight there when you didn't warm up properly. So I just grazed the knee. Of course, they gave me 0 for that one. Prince Philip said, "I think we shall go now." Should I? Should we? She said. Then the Queen said to Prince Philip, "No, we'll wait until the end." Wow. That's what the Queen said. The press picked it up, you see.
Right.
Yeah. And then they said, I went for my 4th attempt. Now that inspired me more than anything in the world. Right. There's a Queen that's watching this. I cannot disappoint the Queen. No way. I got there, man. That's where your religion helps you. You think of praying, pray to yourself. Not showing off to the cross and all that. Yeah. To me, that can mean nothing. It's within you. Yeah. I thought to myself, do it or die. That's my philosophy. Right. Do it or die. That's exactly what I've done. This time, my cleans pulled so high, got my knee so far, didn't touch it. And then, of course, the referee's white lights, 3 white lights. The Queen and Prince Philip stood up to leave. The moment they stood up, everybody's going to stand up. Right. See, and that was for me. The greatest. Wow. There was nothing better than that. That was a good question you asked me. That's how I brought it up. Wow. And then Buckingham Palace, I'm going to tell you, the press hasn't got this one. Okay. I'm going to tell you one. Press hasn't got. The Queen says to the rugby players, every time the rugby plays in New Zealand, the Queen sends a message to them, not in writing. Yeah. Pass my regards to Precious McKenzie. The Queen says that every time. Wow. And when I came here now, somebody's told me the same story that the Queen, he was one of the ex-rugby players. Right. Today I saw him, and he said to me, same thing the Queen did ask. And you know where I believe them as well? Because the hotel where they were staying, the All Blacks in Christchurch, that's when they told me, the Queen asked me, how are you? In Buckingham Palace.
When you're just about to lift,
yes,
and you're backstage,
what's the routine like?
The routine is you think big, so you can do it. Number 1, you see to yourself. Number 2, think how you're going to do it. You know your weak points. The weak points, touching elbow. Yeah. But clean and jerk was my custard and pudding.
Right.
Clean and jerk.
Easy food.
Because I believe, that's why I coach that way. Your leg, your thighs is one of the biggest muscles. You use it. And people don't take shortcuts. Shortcut never works. See, in other words, you're going to really pull a long pull.
Right.
And you pull long, you don't give up. See my shoulders?
Yeah.
You're going to go like this. You go like this. See, now the arms can go up.
Yeah.
In slow motion, they can do it for you, see.
So most people would naturally think because you're lifting, it's with your arms, but it's your legs.
Your legs are the most powerful. It's the biggest muscle that you got.
Right.
Some people say the buttock. It's part of it. Yeah, glutes. We call it glutes. That, if you got a big pair of glutes, it's all through squatting.
Right. Okay.
If you squat heavy weights, you got a big glutes. Some of these girls now, they're pumping all the stuff.
Yeah. Just
stupid.
It's crazy, right?
I didn't make you laugh today, did I?
No, that's funny.
Yes, you did.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, a serious subject like this, you got to make love humor.
Yeah.
If you don't make humor, it's dead, no matter how good that can be.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another thing that might help me as to try and get into your mindset, was you always able to handle the media pressure and the media?
Now the media, believe it or not, they love me, absolutely, because I never snub them. Right. The moment I see them, I speak to them, talk to them as a friend. Straight away they take on to me. Guess what? They start asking me good questions, and I give it to them. Right. Now I'll give, for example, the good ones. That's my friend up to this very day, and he's in New Zealand. Come from New Zealand now, and he did a lot of write-ups about me, and by golly, absolutely fabulous. See, all right, let me get back to you. I've never answered your question yet. Yeah. What was the question?
So was you always able to handle the media pressure? So was there ever people were expecting you to do?
Right, I got it. Now, you know the press in London, the Press Association, but what do they call themselves now? It's the media. Now, they know me because of my friendliness to them and all that, and that's why they give me good write-ups as well. Now, every year, as I said, that I have a nomination and at the Savoy Hotel. Remember I told you that story? Now the media, when they heard that I'm leaving for New Zealand to live there, they club up together and it gave me a luncheon in Fleet Street. Okay. That is where all the media are. They gave me a beautiful photograph of myself doing the press. The press. Those days, military press was in the three lifts. Right. You never knew that, did you? No. That's right. The press was now, because the Russians and Bulgarians, when they clean, and they instead of going this way and the press, they use their knees as well. Yeah. Right. It's good. Let me see. I forgot now. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. They got it. Yeah. Then they go forward. And then they drive the weights and then go, right. then go split, or they don't have to split. Some of them, they thrust it so high, they go back and up. See what I mean? Now the press should never be like this. You fail straight away. Now I hold a Commonwealth record for a military press. No body movement.
Right, just arms.
You're right. Now, I was the only one really passed every time with that one because I was very strong there, and also the thighs. There's no kicking. Don't use your kicking. It's just straight. That's all you got to do. So they invited me to London from Bristol because I lived in Bristol. Right. We got a present to give you, the media. That's nice. Media, of all people. So then I drove to London, and then the luncheon was on. They showed me pictures of myself back, like history. They showed me all that. But what they showed me last is the military press. Right. It's no longer recognized, and I was the strictest one for the press. Like that.
And that's the picture?
That's the picture. And I got it in my collection. Yeah. I feel like sending it for you all, but it's not here. I can send a picture.
We'll have a copy, thanks. A child now wants to start weightlifting. What do you tell them?
Well, if they want to do weightlifting, they must be prepared to work hard, because weightlifting is one of the hardest sports. One of the hardest ones. It takes in mind everything. You know what I mean? You cannot miss anything barring this. And your strength comes from your mentality, your inspiration, all that. And never despair as well. why people fail because of despair. Oh, I can't do it. There's no such thing, you can't. That's my motto, I tell everyone. Just don't say to yourself, I can't do it. Just talk to yourself, say, I can do it. If you will, you'll do it.
I think that is not just a message for weightlifting. I think that's a message for life.
That's it.
So I think that we're going to close on that because that makes sense to me with an amazing message from an amazing man. So thank you for your stories. And
Thank you too.
I hope that you'll be back. I hope we get to meet again soon. Thank you
Just
so
call on me.
much.
Yeah. Just call on me.